welcome back. If you happen to find yourself an author today, then my name is Ella. This is my channel where I talk about writing, laugh a lot, edit badly. So, excuse you. I'm filming this, obviously, in the beginning of January. And January means that it is a new year, generally, because that is how the 12-month cycle goes. That means, since it is a new year, that another year just came to a close. This is how years work. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So, yes, I've seen a lot of people posting their best books or most favorite books of 2020. And I was like, that was fun, but then I realized I can't adequately talk about books that I like, or else I just start choking up, and I'm just like, eh. So I decided to talk about the best things that I feel like I wrote in 2020, because it has been a really good writing year for me. I've written more than I ever have before, and I've written more stuff that I'm proud of than I ever have. And I'm only going to be talking about pieces of fiction, because I have written quite a few pieces of poetry, but I don't really know how to talk about poetry without exposing my deepest, darkest secrets, and I really don't want to do that right now. So, also, these are not ranked, they are just going in chronological order of the year. The first thing that I wrote of that I'm proud of is my, I don't know what to call it because none of these are named. I'd call it my novella, because it's a novella, I guess. It's basically I just wanted to write a short piece of fiction and just make it as dramatic as possible. So we follow two characters, Angela and Kathy, and they both don't really know each other, and they're kind of like weaved through their acquaintances because they have similar acquaintances. It's just really dramatic. It takes place in the 60s, the 1960s. There's lots of like love affairs, and I'm pretty sure there's a fire at one point, and it's, yeah, Angela is having an affair with her sister's husband, and then Kathy, she's like a writer who works at a bookstore, which is kind of a common thing with my writing. Like, I have another character who is a writer who works at a bookstore, and they just go on lots of adventures, and it's very dramatic, and, that's it. Really, I read it back, and it's really bad, but I wrote it in intentions of just being really bad. My favorite thing about it is the narration style. It's written in third person, but also first person. Like, it's telling this, like, neither Angela nor Cassie is narrating it. It's narrated by another person who is a character in the story, but not a relevant character in the story. Just like a character who quite clearly knows them both and has very biased opinions of them both, and is kind of telling the story that way. Um, the closest thing I could compare it to is Lemony Snicket and the series of Unfortunate Events. Like, it's clearly an inspiration there in the narration style. Next is actually a short story that I wrote at the beginning of the year, but I recently completely edited for my creative writing class that I'm a part of. I originally entitled it Bittersweet, and now I called it Goodbye, but I actually hate both of those titles, so I don't know what to call it. It's a story written in a letter about these two people who are both unnamed characters. In short stories, I don't really like naming characters. I also don't like giving them specific, like, genders or anything like that, or appearances. I just like them to be like blank slates of characters. It's really short, and I don't really want to give anything away, but basically both of them enter into this like contest of who could kill each other first. Why do they do this? I don't know. I do know, actually, I wrote it. But then they kind of develop a sort of like friendship. At first I wrote it as a romance, but like, no, I didn't like that. I didn't know friendship, because I liked that much better, and it worked much better. Again, what I liked about this is the narration style, told in a letter. I really liked the voice of the protagonist, who is not named, so I just have to call them the protagonist. And I really feel like the characters were a strong point in this. I felt like the characters were pretty well developed for the short space that I wrote in. So, I'm proud of that. Ooh, next one is a very interesting one that I actually want to make an entire video on because it was a very weird time. I wrote this the first month that I was quarantined. I wrote it, or like more like 3 weeks, and I wrote it like all day, every day. I think it's like 50 or 60,000 words, and I wrote it in like 3 weeks. And it is a fantasy novel, a young adult fantasy novel, which I don't read fantasy, I don't write fantasy, I barely know anything about how to write fantasy, but I wrote this. It is about, what is it about? It's about this kingdom who has been in a civil war for, it's like 375 years, but I think it's called like the 4 Centuries War, is what it's called. And it follows the king and then his acquaintances, but they're also main characters. They have their own problems, except for they don't really. And it's told in like dual POV. So there's 4 characters. There's like the king, and I don't like his name, so I'm not gonna say it. Then there's Pierce, there's Zemi, and there's Hyacinth, and none of them are interesting. It's really the most boring fantasy novel ever. They just stand around talking about nothing. There's literally this one scene where they're talking about chocolate chip pancakes for like 4 pages because I didn't know what to write about. The world building was really bad. I don't even know what the world building was. The characters were not good. They just whined and complained the entire time. And once you think their problems were fixed, they would just go on complaining about it their next chapter. They never really tried to accomplish anything, and they never really accomplished anything at all. Again, they just talked about nothing the whole time. And that's basically it. I would say that I'm very proud of this just because the amount that I wrote in such little time. I also didn't really intend for it to be very serious. I do think there were some themes I wanted to get across that I didn't really get across, but it was good. They were good ideas. I had good ideas for what that novel could have been, but instead it was just pages upon pages talking about chocolate chip pancakes. A small break to eat a mozzarella stick. I have successfully consumed the mozzarella stick and I am ready to continue. So next, I had a small period of writer's block, as one can expect after writing that much in such little time. But I did create a small seed of an idea that I liked, and I started to write. It's also not named. It's a mystery and thriller, and I'm currently working on it right now. It follows this main character named Wyatt, and he's so dumb. He's an idiot, and I love him, but he's really, really dumb. Like really, really dumb. That's the only like what happens to Wyatt? Hello? Oh my god, shut up! I'm trying to talk about how dumb my characters are! I'm literally crying. So I had this tiny seed of an idea, wrote about 20 pages of it, decided it was not working. And then I went back to it and I decided I really liked it, so I'm working on it now. I wrote about 20 more pages of it over break. So that's good, I'm really enjoying it. So what's it about? This character, this this piece of literature that I am currently writing is a mystery thriller and follows a main character named Wyatt, who is very dumb. I love him, but he's really dumb. And that doesn't have anything to do with the plot, it's just how he is. He is another writer who works in a bookstore, and he meets a lot of people. No, he doesn't really need a lot of people. He needs one person. But then he also discovers ghosts might be a thing. Um, Also, his sibling disappeared 5 years later. I mean, earlier. So that might be a good thing to mention. Weird things are happening. Ghosts or no ghosts? Who knows? Me. I am the author of it. So yes, I do know. Weird Things has a great plot twist at the end. I'm so proud of the plot twist. And that's it. I'm really underselling this. I just really like the characters. I think it's a really great character study. Besides Wyatt being a complete and utter idiot, like he has two roommates named Dee and Ari, and they are the best. I want them as my roommate. And then he has an older sister named Stella, and his best friend Jace, and they are also the best. Those three as a trio, um, Jace, Wyatt, and Stella, they're the funnest thing to write. I love their dynamic. I love all the character dynamics in here. That's it, yeah. Next, I have another thing that was a novella, but it's gonna be longer than that because how could it not be? Basically, I wrote this after I finished being a counselor in training at my summer camp this year, and I was really missing summer camp. So I wrote a story about a new counselor in my summer camp. Her name is. She changed names like 50 times. I believe her current name is. I don't know. Her original name was Kara, so that's what I'm going to be calling her. And it's about her meeting people. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, and really like just navigating. It's a coming of age, and it's written, I think, one of my best. Like I reread this, and I was so proud of how it was written. Like it was, I don't know. It just she has a best friend named Darcy, and Darcy's too good for this world. I don't know. I don't know. I just can you tell that I don't know. This is kind of like my child writing. It my child. It does deal with some heavier topics, which does make it a little bit more difficult to write because I really want to handle them the best I can. Another thing that I really liked about this book, or I'm more proud of myself for, is it really made me realize how important having diverse cast of characters are. My previous writings were not the most diverse. I mean, they were like fine, but they really needed more characters of different races, sexualities, disabilities, and I definitely think this delivered because it takes place in a summer camp. It has such a large cast of characters that it does have like the most diverse just because I usually work with very small cast of characters. That's what I like. Also, the previous work I mentioned, the one with Wyatt, that one's also pretty diverse because I'm pretty sure I wrote this after that. So I realized how important it is. Next is one that I'm pretty sure it's last. Yeah, it's last. Is one that I've talked about briefly, or kind of. No, I don't know. It's my NaNoWriMo or National Novel Writing novel. So it's about this band that I've not named yet because I'm lame, who goes into a cabin, or actually not a cabin, it's a really nice house, in the middle of the woods to write their final album before they're like just done with it. And it's I don't know what genre it is. It's really weird. It was originally a horror, but it's not like anymore. But I took out all the scary pieces because they were really just to make it fit into the horror genre, and they just didn't really make sense there. Basically, I'd call it a character study because it follows only 5 characters the whole time. I mean, technically there's 7, but like the 2 characters in it for like 2 chapters. There's 5 characters in it, and they're both. I mean, all of them are very messed up people. They all have very complicated ways of thinking and also backstories. And it's the most like difficult thing I've ever written because I there is so much to incorporate, but also spoiler alert, they're not actually in the cabin to write their last album. That's not why they're there. That's the cover story. And so basically they have nothing to do the whole time. And that's been really difficult for me because I don't know what they're supposed to be doing. They're not supposed to be doing anything except for apparently developing as characters. But it's just incredibly convoluted. The writing style is very questionable on my part. It as it's written in third person. I don't know how I've read this in first person, and I don't love the writing style, but I just love how convoluted it is. I love the characters. Well, actually, most of the characters are horrible people, and but I love writing them. Yeah. Okay. So that is it. That is my favorite things that I've written in 2020. I might do like my favorite books of the year, but again, I don't know because I'm very bad at talking about it. Um, but until then, or whenever, I hope to see you again. My name's Ella. Yeah, have a nice day.